Right, here he comes.
Right.
So let's keep nice and quiet now, right? Okay, can we not bang the ball as well, please, lads? Come on, John.
Can we just do this before? Thanks very much.
Right,
Thanks.
so I don't want any noise. We need to have it nice and quiet.
All right.
For this,
Okay.
fellas,
I think they'll be all right.
Right, we're just positioning the lights. Who's that? Right, okay, nice and quiet, fellas.
Come on, Joe.
Joe was always the quiet man. Very shrewd, very knowledgeable, knew his football.
If a player at Liverpool Football Club was struggling, needed a pickup, needed someone to listen to them, it was always Joe. He was a man who'd given his life to Liverpool Football Club, creating these teams and producing this fantastic success for Liverpool and its people.
There's this man thrown into a job which he probably didn't want, and what does he do in his first season? The team wins a treble. It's phenomenal.
Joe was, to me, a manager before he was made manager. The biggest thing, see, is the knowledge of the game and how to work with people.
I was his captain, and I responded to his type of management. He was just a lovely, lovely human being.
It's the people in the club. It's the people that make it, really. There's no magic. No, there's no magic.
Joe was born in Walton Hospital in Liverpool, March 1921. His parents were Irish, lived in the north end of the city, Scotland Road area. Joe did well at school, but nevertheless at 14 he had to leave school and he got a job in a tannery works, mainly to bring some money into the household. It was a hard life. I don't think there's anything getting away from that. Joe played for a St Helens club, Earlstown Bohemians. They were well known in the area. And he was outstanding, clearly.
When he was a schoolboy, he was offered a trial with Liverpool, and he also thought Everton were interested in him. But somebody said, look, if you go to one of the local clubs, if anything goes wrong, the local boys will be the whipping boys, so don't go.
I suspect that Joe wanted to get away from the city for a while, and he wanted a bit of freedom. Manchester City was a big club. Here was Joe about to embark, he thought, on a professional career in his late teens. And suddenly the war arrives. He plays occasionally for Manchester City, his new club, in regional football, but he soon joins up, he joins the Navy, and he ends up playing mostly in services football during the Second World War. It's a huge chunk of his career. Joe makes his full debut for Manchester City in 1947 on New Year's Day. He's 26 years of age. City are in the second division, but he helps them get promoted. Some people describe him as a plodder, as a bit of a 7 out of 10 player, but he's a key figure.
Joe exuded this calm authority, very little ego actually, which is unusual in football. He also had the ability to acquire knowledge. He listened and he learned. He knew the game and he knew how to communicate it.
At 1950, he gets injured, a breakage above the ankle, and he decides to leave Manchester City and look at possible routes towards management or coaching. He starts to work at Nelson as player manager, is really successful there. He then moves on to do some coaching at Bradford Park Avenue. He goes to Altrincham briefly. Harry Catterick, who was later to become the Everton manager, of course, is the manager of Rochdale. And he recruits Joe. It's Harry Catterick who recommends him to Phil Taylor at Liverpool in 1958. That time Liverpool is in the second division, and frankly it's not doing very well. Phil Taylor, the manager, is not really his own man. He's not picking the team. Liverpool doesn't look like a club going somewhere. But nevertheless, Joe can see it's a step up.
Well, I first met Joe when I was playing in the first team when he joined us in '58. He was a great bloke. He treated the players the right way. They respected him right away. You could see this going to make the club better.
In 1959, a whole number of things occur to change the very future of the club. One is Phil Taylor resigned, and for the first time, the Liverpool board shows some ambition. They decide to recruit a manager who himself has real ambition. So towards the end of 1959, Bill Shankly sweeps into Liverpool Football Club.
Managers now get rid of the back room. Shanks got them all together. There was Bob Paisley and Joe Fagan and Reuben. He had the foresight and the wisdom to say, I'm keeping you, and he got rid of 24 players.
His job is really as the reserve team coach in the Central League. Now, the Central League has to deal with very young players who are ambitious. It also has to deal with seasoned professionals who are being left out of the first team. Joe is made for this job. Joe knows when to press the right buttons with players.
At the age of 15, I joined Liverpool, and Joe was there, and he used to take care of the kids. He put me on the straight road because Joe was somebody that you could actually have a bit of a cry on, you know, as well, put your head on his shoulders. I could have a chat with him about why aren't I in the first team? Because you're not good enough, son. As simple as that. Well, somebody answers you like that, well, Buff, you know, you go, yeah, well, okay. When am I going to be good enough? I'll tell you when you're good enough.
The manager had his office where he could retreat to. The players had the dressing room, of course, and the coaches felt they needed a space. Joe had a contact in Guinness Exports, one of the famous local non-league clubs in the area. He did a bit of coaching for the Exports and allowed some of their players to come and be treated occasionally. As a thank you, Joe used to get some Guinness and other beers.
So they decided to stack it in the boot room. That's how the thing began. Shanks hardly ever went in, it wasn't his domain.
But this is where Liverpool's coaches traded information. And it's also where they invited the manager of opposing teams to come and have a drink and a chat after matches.
Joe was the main man in the training regime, really. He set out all the stuff for the day, he wrote it down in his book. Joe would be the rock of Liverpool. He kept everybody together because of his personality.
I think Joe's real input was to be part of that balance. Shankly brought his charisma, his bravado, the way he inspired people. The achievements of Bob Paisley are so amazing. The most successful period in the history of the club. And without Joe, none of this, I don't think, is likely to have happened in quite the way that it did.
Didn't want big-headed players. Certain players didn't do it. They were away. If anybody went through the motions in training, they were kicked up the backside.
He was that great backup for Bob Paisley because Bob couldn't converse as much as what Shanks had done when it was difficult to know what the team selection was or some of the things. Joe would just have a quiet word and he'd come and he'd say, look, this is what it is.
When I went there, my first game was West Brom away. So 10 minutes before the game, and there were all the senior players. And I said to Joe at 10 to 3, I said, Joe, can I have a word with you? And he said, yes, and what is it? I said, I've been here a week, Joe, and no one said anything to me. How do you want me to play? And he said in a big booming voice, F off. We spent all this money on you and you're asking me how to play football. That was how it was in those days.
Bob Paisley's had this unparalleled period of success. But Bob is coming to the end of his time. There's plenty of time for Liverpool Football Club to decide what happens next.
Bob had announced a year before he was going to give it one more season, and everyone knew it would be Joe.
I'll tell you who was great for Joe the first season when he got the job was Graham Souness. Graham called a meeting in the first team dressing room and went, you know what? He said, all the press are writing this fella off. Let's make sure we can win every single competition possible. Joe's first year, we won 3, I think.
Joe is 62 by this time. He's quite old to be taking on a manager's job. He loses some games. One is a very famous defeat at Coventry City in December 1983. Liverpool lost 4-0. It's not plain sailing, but he keeps them on track. He keeps the club moving forward. And we know that incredible success follows. The Milk Cup, in which Liverpool beat Everton, the first great Merseyside Cup final. Liverpool triumph in the end.
When they clinched the title at Notts County, we went to the dressing room and there was Joe sweeping the dressing room.
It was that simplicity, just such a nice bloke. Still lived within walking distance of Anfield. Even as manager, I think he still went home for lunch.
A fantastic achievement for the club, the first to do it in 3 successive years since Arsenal in the 30s. It's something you've always wanted. Yeah.
Not bad at all, is it? I don't think we ever think about these things. I think we leave it to other people to sort the
statistics out.
Couldn't say that word, John. I still can't say it.
But what you can do is manage your football team. Your first year in charge and 2 trophies on the shelf already. That must mean something to you personally.
Incredible. I don't know how it's happened. Don't ask me. I do really, because the lads have done it. They've been magnificent. At the end of the day, I think we deserved our Cannon League championship.
And the European Cup still to come, the final.
Well, I'm not going to think about it. Can't think about that as well.
Mind you, it'd be something, again, something unique, wouldn't it? A treble.
No comment.
And then the final challenge, the extraordinary challenge of not only playing in the European Cup final, but playing against Roma in their own stadium.
The morning of the game, we're having lunch, and after everyone had more or less finished, he tapped a spoon on the glass. We were all nudging each other. We think he's going to make a long speech here, which we didn't have team meetings. So he stood up, and it was obvious after about 30 seconds, he was talking to himself, and he said, big game tonight. These must be a good team. We've got several World Cup winners, a couple of Brazilians. And then there was a pause, and then he said, they're not as good as us. That was his team talk for the European Cup final.
Good evening to you from the Olympic Stadium in Rome. The perfect setting, a spectacular arena for what promises to be an epic battle. It might come for Phil Neal, and it's given. Liverpool are in the lead. Crossed in once more, flicked on again, and Roma have equalised. Extra time is over, it's penalties. Grobbelaar, antics on the line. Missed it! Missed it! And if Alan Kennedy scores, it's all over. Liverpool are European champions! What joy!
There's this man thrown into a job which he probably didn't want, and what does he do in his first season? The team wins a treble. It's phenomenal. There's a lovely picture of him by the swimming pool in the hotel the day after. Joe's got a smile as wide as the Mersey. By halfway through that second season, he was just feeling that it was a heavy load to bear. And in February, he went to the board and said, look, I want to finish at the end of this season. It's difficult to reflect on that season now because of what happened in the last game.
I think what happened to Joe at that match, the European Cup final in 1985, was really difficult to take. I think it broke him. He just didn't understand it, couldn't comprehend it. His life's work in creating these teams and producing this fantastic success for Liverpool and its people, how it could be reduced to this.
Coming off that plane, it really got to him and he was very upset. He had to show some emotion sometimes and he let himself go then.
He was a man who'd given his life to Liverpool Football Club. And what happened in 85 in Heisel had really, really shattered him.
He was a wonderful coach, he was a wonderful manager, and he should be, I think, more appreciated for what he actually done.
It's easy to make mistakes when you're taking over a ship that's sailing serenely. Just one little mistake and the ship can be on the wrong course. But not only did Joe keep it on course, but the team wins a treble.
He never changed. To me, his main thing was his treatment of people and his knowledge of the game and how to play it.
Joe became, I have to say, my father in football. That's how much I thought of him.
We were playing Southampton away, and we stopped at Oxford for lunch. My mother had been seriously ill, and I was late on getting on the bus because I'd been on the phone to my brother who told me my mother was going to die that night. And then from Oxford all the way down to Southampton, he sat with me with his arm around me. And I'll always remember that. He was just a lovely, lovely human being. I loved him.
I think the risk always with someone like Joe is that his role is underplayed because the character of Bill Shankly is so enormous, because the achievements of Bob Paisley are so amazing. But that doesn't mean that Joe isn't crucial. He is crucial. He's definitely crucial for that whole period. What a set of achievements, what a history, what a place he has in the hearts of all Liverpool supporters.
I think the champagne might help to settle it tonight, though, Joe.
Actually, it's whiskey and lemonade.
Wrong again. As usual, you finish on top, we'll leave it there.
Thanks very much, John.
Cheers.